Oh yeah, got the whole Mr. Robot style, like on that Periscope status.
Yeah, yeah. We are live. You know how Rogan talks before it starts? Check, check.
Yup, yup. Man, that's this is what I was thinking. I was like, oh my God, it's the Puerto Rican Joe Rogan.
All right. We are live, live, live. I'm going to
Yeah.
intro you in 1 second, Virus. Everyone's seen this tweet. It's been retweeted. But it is officially day 8 of Shelter in Place. And like I said before, I'm going to keep on doing this every day between 6:30. I'm still getting the vibes and all the kinks out of this new software I've been using. Yeah, but it's dope, right? We're going to get straight into it. No wasting time. Twitter, you rolling through your feed. So we got to go straight into it. So let me bring in my boy that I've known forever. That's my man. He's my brother from another mother, Virus.
What
He is
up?
live. Do me a favor for the people that are joining. Hit me up with a comment down there. How does he sound? How do I sound? What's the vibe out there? Can you hear us clearly?
Yeah.
So yeah, Virus, man, it's been a while, and we were gonna talk, and I was like, let's just be authentic. Let's go on there and let's shoot the shit and how we always talk when we call each other, right? Except
Word.
it's being streamed. That's the difference. It's just being streamed. So I have to say, first and foremost, let's get into it. Shelter in place. You're in LA. I'm in the Valley. It's a little crazy out here, but there's a lot of things that are still open, so you could go and run around and grab some stuff. How is it over there in LA? Is it crazy?
It's not too crazy. It's mostly so I have my son. I have I have a 2 year old, and definitely like once the governor came down and said no, really the whole state, is shelter in place suggested, if not shelter in place from your local governance. Um, the big impact there was that meant that the parks were closed. And so like school was already closed, and I've been remote, like working remote, like not going into an office for the better part of almost 11, 12 years now. So like really nothing changed for me on that front. I have slightly more food in my fridge than usual. Already have bidets on both toilets. Like really, there just wasn't like stuff got crazy, and like I went to the butcher and got some extra meat, and like that was about it. Um and like my son, instead of going to preschool for 4 hours a day and then coming home and having my folks come and watch him, 2 days a week, I scaled that back to 1 day a week so that there's a full week for them to know if there's issues. And then obviously I don't want them to be at risk. So, I'm like, look, I'm at home anyway. I'll just watch him. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But the one thing that has been a little bit of an adjustment is, he's 2, so he's at that age where it's all about the socialization right now. It's all about, he's just now learning that like other humans exist, and he's learning, language and their names, and he has friends at school who like I can ask him who are your friends at school, and he'll rattle off some names. Now, what's the definition of friend? But
Yeah.
they're humans that he acknowledges exist, and he can't talk to them, he can't see them, he can't play with them. So that's definitely a thing. So our saving grace has been with the parks closed and with school out. The Los Angeles Arboretum, which is just next to the 210, right down Baldwin,
Yes, sir.
is still open.
So
And that's great because it's a very, I mean, it's like something like 20 or 30 acres of space. And there's tons of animals. They got peacocks and wild coyotes and all kinds of crazy. It's just a great place. But the fact that it's so big means that, and they have enough staff that they can generally police the social distancing.
yeah.
So you really can just like be there and have a conversation and literally be 5 to 6 feet away
Yeah.
from somebody else and still have room to like grab a child before they pick up something they shouldn't or talk
Yeah.
to somebody, and
That's
that's
the
been
vibe.
that's been great.
So for me, I haven't really gone out for the last 7 days. Today I finally took a walk, but it's I really been like shelter in place, like just working my ass off when I wake up all the way until I go to sleep. So it is what it is, like just going out doing exercise inside. So it doesn't
Yeah,
bother me, but a lot of people that work that go into an office, you know, are now working remote. You're
yeah.
a great person to be on to talk about that because you've been working remotely for 10 years. How do you stay focused, brother?
Man,
Locked in.
it's I think the hardest part about giving advice about working remote is that all the things that I feel like work well for me working remote took me a long time to figure out. Like I tell people like, "Oh, nothing has really changed because, I've been working I can remote 12 years." Yeah, but it took like 5 of those years to figure out how to really do it well. So for people who are doing it all at once, man, I feel for you. That's hard. That's an abrupt adjustment.
Yeah.
Um, but there are definitely some concrete things that you can do, and I think definitely when people talk about it, they try to get they look at what a certain routine or activity does for them, and then they tell people to do this routine. And I think it's important to kind of back up and don't just listen to what somebody says. Like, oh, somebody says they get up and they take a shower and they put on clothes. I should do that because they look that person gets up and they put on clothes because mentally that's their way of signifying my work day has started, right? And that puts their head in a certain mind space that they can focus in a certain way, and they can tune out certain distractions because they're thinking at that point, I'm at work, right? And there's tons of data to back up
Mm-hmm.
psychologically
Yeah.
that humans, we are our routines. So being able to set your routine internally and have those routines not based on physical things that are in your space is a big deal. For me, it's not clothes, right?
Yeah.
I shower at night. I don't put on clothes in the morning. I'm in my PJs all day long.
Yeah.
But for me,
The
I wake
Silicon
up.
Valley life.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the
But I
Valley
do
life.
have certain things that for me signal that I'm at work. And for me, it's my coffee. And the
Yes,
reason
sir.
it's my coffee is because my normal every day is I wake up and I go get my son from his bed, and I change him and I wash him and I put his clothes on and we hang out for a couple hours, and then I take him to nursery school, and then when I come back, when I'm at home, daddy's at work.
Yeah.
And the first thing I do when I come back is I change back into my PJs and I make my coffee. So my new thing now is, even though that I'm working from the living room for the first 4 hours,
Yeah.
I hang out, I do all of the usual things with him that I would usually do. We play, and then either he plays or I give him a little bit of TV time. But right at 9 o'clock, Daddy makes his coffee,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when
It
I'm at work.
clicks. It's funny in terms of routine. Like besides conference calls that dictate my time, I try to not look at the time, right? I have these tasks that I do and I don't give a shit what is next. It's like until I finish this task every day. So I wake up and I have my routine of creating what my day is going to look like and what I want to accomplish.
Yeah,
And I don't go down to the next thing that I want to do until the first one's accomplished. So I go down this line and you know, I I don't even like it could be morning, it could be afternoon, I don't know. I just go down do this task and then you have events that you have to do that dictate your time. You have to pick your kid up from school or you
exactly.
have a conference call which dictates your time. So I try to not look at the time and I'm more task oriented and that's what I do.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I find that even when it's not about work at home or when you're in lockdown, I've learned that that helps my productivity generally. And I actually because I follow you obviously, like
Yeah.
I've learned some tidbits from you and I've learned some tidbits from other people. Because I used to be really bad at that. Time management has always been one of my problems,
Mhm.
and definitely, people tell me now it's great at it, but it's all practice, and a lot of it is it's a few subtle things that I just had to do. I had to commit to doing them. One of them is actually setting a calendar, and I'm to the point where I have one thing that I look at. I've learned that like I can't have it on my personal calendars on this phone and the work calendars on the other phone because like OPSEC, but then like no, no. There has to
Yeah.
be one space that I look at that I know what my calendar is. And then adjacent to that, I have my to-do list in the morning. And the important thing about my to-do list is it's not really a to-do list. It's really a priority queue,
Yeah.
right?
Ooh.
If
Which
only
fire is
one
burning? Which fire is
yeah.
burning?
Yeah, if only one thing gets done today, what does it have to be? Okay, now if that gets done, what's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Mm.
What's the next thing? And I definitely like you start doing that, it's like 20 things, and you're only going to get the first two things done. And that's fine because what you're going to learn is that you can't get 20 things done in a day.
That's
right?
true.
And so that list starts getting smaller. But what's most important is that the most important thing, because everything can't be important or nothing is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing is always at the top of the list. And so I find that that lets me do exactly what you just said, where I don't have to look at the time because I know that the thing I need to be working on until it gets done is this thing.
Mm.
And then if I get done, I'll move to the next thing. Now, in the time where I'm doing this thing, I may have to pick my kid up from school. Something may happen and
Yep.
there's construction. Something may happen and somebody comes to the house. It doesn't matter because I can quickly adjust and I can change expectations. I can communicate things to leadership or whoever, has a stake, whoever has set expectations in my time because this is the one thing I have to get done. So if I'm not doing the interruption, I'm doing this thing. And if, I don't get done as many things as I thought I would want to do, it's okay because I can say, well, these were the 12 interruptions I had today. And you know what? They were worth it. And at least I didn't deviate from my priority queue. And that's really what matters. That's what lets me sleep at night and then get up the next day and do it again.
Yes, sir. So, quick question. You've been doing red team, and I've known you, and you've been on the offensive side since I've known you, and I've been seeing tweets from you the last few months. Some tweets about this defensive thing you've been doing. I
Ooh,
need
man.
you to let's get into it. You know how we go deep with it. Every
Man.
time we speak, we go deep. It's time to go deep, and what have you been doing? Let's go. Let's go in.
I tell you, it is such a headspace. Like, going defense after being effectively offense for I don't know, 10, 20 years is it's got to be the most educational thing I've ever done, in terms of understanding the space and really honing the craft because um
Shout out to Cryptos. He's on there. Shout out to
oh
Cryptos. He gave you a little shout out. I'm seeing the comments. He says
yeah.
he says this these dudes riding out with virus. So
Hey man, it is
let's
good.
give him a
I was just telling Marco before we went live. I was like, yeah, man, all my 9 for 9 boys was like, yo, uh, you gotta change your Twitter handle to coronavirus, right? And I don't know, I still might do it. I don't know. I don't want to be sensitive to people, but like it's kind of funny.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, yeah.
oh
So
man,
you on the
um,
defensive vibe now, which
yeah,
was
yeah,
interesting,
yeah.
and we've
So
had some
there's definitely
conversations.
I've gone through some phases. So the first phase, okay, so first, like as a red teamer, I always thought like, okay, so as a red teamer, you always hear about like, oh, these red team people, like they just show up, they break stuff, and they leave, and they think that because they broke stuff, they're so gangster, right? And I'm gonna say this twice, but the first time I'm gonna say it is now is. And I didn't have that, but part of the reason why I know that I didn't have that is because I've been extraordinarily lucky in my career. And I think the new word is mentors, but what it used to be was peers. And
Mm,
I just think I got really lucky that the peers that I've gathered throughout my time in InfoSec, even since a young age, even since it was like pre-professional,
exactly.
have just been really knowledgeable and really wise. Um, and the people in my space have always told me, I mean, they're not enemies, so like, I don't know. I'm stepping on my words. I'm sorry, but like, respect your foe. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Like,
sir.
I've when I was red team, I always internalized the concept that the blue team people are just as technical as the red team people. The only difference is that the blue team people have two masters. They have to make the network function for business reasons,
Mhm.
and they have to keep it safe,
Mhm.
right? And the red team people just have to compromise it, which is one task versus two tasks.
Yeah.
It's not about which task is easier because that's you can't quantify human suffering. That's not a real thing,
Yeah.
right? It's just about two tasks versus one tasks,
Mhm.
right? N of one versus N of two.
Yes, sir.
And I have always internalized that this is why the red team wins, so to speak. Like this is why blue teams have a hard time. And I always thought that because of that, that the ratio of technical savvy at the blue team level was the same as it is at the red team level. And what I've learned is that in some ways that's true, and in some ways that's not true. And the way that that's true is I think that there are very smart, very, very well accomplished, very wise people on both sides of the fence. I don't think that that's different. But what I have learned is different is that on the red team space, there's basically like it's like a pyramid, right? There's basically like those kids at the top. There's the Vizzies and the Chris's and the
Yes, sir.
Larises
Shout out to Vizzy. I was gonna say Vizzy.
there's
Vizzy,
the
man.
there's the Conshotos and the
Yes,
Atlases and
sir.
the Trails and the the Dinos and the
Yeah,
and the
they
and the
some
the
gangsters.
Kaminskis and there's all
It's
the
on
kids
and on and on. I'll tell you
Yeah.
this. I'll tell you this. One of the things, and having Vizzy as a mentor made me realize two things. Like a lot of people specialize on offense or defense. And what Vizzy did, and he opened my eyes to it, was why not both? Why not play on both sides
So
and
you're
be
gonna
a
love
gangster on both sides?
so you're gonna love where I go with this. You're gonna absolutely love where I go with this because one of my teammates is a guy named Russ. And Russ was actually at Attack Research when I was at Lara's, but we didn't know each other
Mm-hmm.
until where we are now.
Yeah,
And that's super funny for all kinds of reasons.
yeah.
But as Attack Research was started by Val Smith. Well, I didn't realize like Russ was like Russ was to Val Smith like you were to Vizzy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they did some blue team stuff. So he's got a whole. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there.
Go ahead.
So like on the red team side, you have this pyramid, and at the top you have your Vizzies and your Vals and your crazy, Chris,
Yeah.
Nickerson, Indy
Mm-hmm.
303, and like all these gangsters, right? And then because there's always more work to be done, right? Because the work of an offensive provider or the work of just a red team, if we're going to use that word,
Mm-hmm.
is to show you unknown unknowns, right? Once you
Yeah.
get to the point where you think you know what you need to do to make something safe, you go hire people who are good at finding stuff you didn't think of. That's the whole purpose, right? That's their only purpose is to push the envelope in ways you didn't think of. If they're telling you stuff you already know, you're wasting your money.
Oh, Snow.
But so
By the
that's
way, Snowchild says what's up.
Oh, word. Oh,
He,
what up,
he
Snow? Oh,
Snow's
Snow.
on there.
Oh, speaking of gangsters, man.
Speaking of gangsters, name dropping them. But you know what?
Speaking
You know
of,
what? I'll give you this story. Let's go story time a little bit. I'm gonna give you this story. It was DEF CON 14. It was a big party. I think it was 14 or 15. It could have been. I don't know. It was. I want to say it was maybe in the last 5 to 8 years. We were at that big party on Saturdays that they no longer do. I forget.
Saturday, it must have been
Yeah,
Ninja.
Sunshine. Sunshine throws it.
Oh, the IO thing. Yeah, yeah.
Ioactive. Remember they were at the pool party. They had this big thing and the violinist was there. And me and you linked up and we were like we always do this every year. We go find that we find each other and we go in a corner and go in for 15 minutes. And one of the things I remember, and I told you this, and we were talking about this and this gangster dropped that and this that, and I was like, man, you gotta take your time, and we always look ahead of us and the things that are happening ahead of us and these gangsters that are dropping some cool shit. But what we fail to realize is we don't look behind us to assist people that are coming like up and helping them, right? And we always they say they call it the imposter syndrome. I call it, I don't like calling it that. I like calling it, dude, you want to get better and you see these gangsters and it's going to take 2 years to get to the level of exploit type thing they just did or whatever the case is, but we never look behind us because we're constantly chasing that next goal or that next level.
Yes,
and
I
and
completely agree.
you
I
you
completely
remember that
agree.
conversation we had in
I
the
do
corner.
remember
We
that
don't stop and
conversation.
smell the roses and look behind us and say, dude, look where we're at from 8 years ago where
Yeah,
we
I
were.
totally remember it. I totally remember it. And you're right. And I think a little bit of that message is kind of lost in the modern narrative, which is like, oh, it's all about inclusivity. And I think the problem with inclusivity as a narrative is it removes the barrier to entry. And I don't think the barrier to entry is a bad thing. I think the barrier to entry is a good thing. I do completely agree with everything that the social justice community says about unconscious bias. I think that's incredibly important. But I think that is the secret. I think that's the nexus that's the dragon that we're chasing is how do we keep the barrier to entry, but make the barrier to entry devoid of unconscious bias, which is, of course, a battle we can't win. But how do we get as close to that as possible? I think just removing the barrier to entry and saying everybody can, we can classify, classify as in we can make a class for it. Like we can make a 12-step program for every form of knowledge. I think that defeats wisdom, but that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole nother thing.
I don't want to let your other question go unanswered.
Go for
it. All of this, right? All of these conversations are the type of conversations that happen at the top of this red team pyramid, and in the professional space, right? In the capitalist space, right? It's about that hustle, it's about that money. At the end of the day, there's the folks at the top who provide real value, and those are the people on the red side who are making real money, unless they're contracting on the offense side or both. And then everybody else is basically either living off their salespeople or picking up scraps. That's just how the industry is. I'm not saying that's good or that's bad or that's right or that's wrong. I'm just saying that was my experience the whole time I was on the red side. And it is what it is. And on the blue side, I've learned that pyramid is there's no pyramid. It's totally different. It's totally different. You have people who really know how to defend, and I've learned that defending is very much based on experience in a way that red teaming is not. Like if you're a red teamer, you can read all the blogs and you can sit there and fuzz and write Ode forever, and you can stay in this bubble and you can get good, and then you can only go outside your little research lab when you want to launch an attack. And yeah, you have to learn a little bit about the real world, but like you can win, right? Like you can be a really good scalpel. And on the blue team side, it's totally different, because if you haven't engaged with an actual attacker, and that has nothing to do with you. That's a juxtaposition of, does your leadership support you actually going after them? Do you have the telemetry to find that they're there? Do you have the response capability to involve yourself in the cat and mouse game that is blue team? Like there's a lot of pieces of that puzzle that have to fall into place. But when they do, you get the experience of the fight. The actual cat and mouse real time, like the fight. And what I've learned is that outside the criminal space, frankly, if I'm just being real, outside the criminal space on the red team side, right? That's where you get it. But on the blue team side, since there's not that historically criminal element, if you haven't had the experience of doing actual IR, of actual, we found a bad guy, bad girl, whoever, and we're gonna do response, you're chasing the red team or you're chasing theory. And that shit's different.
Yeah.
That's not the game.
Yeah.
It's all pretend.
Yeah.
And it's real hard. Like you can't give that to somebody. Right? I mean, I'm in a place right now where I have had my immediate leadership tell me multiple times, yo, you are more technical than me or more technical than us in these 20 different things. And these are crazy and they're totally going to catch this bad guy. And you can't pick ops because you are chasing this level of what you think a bad guy is. That's not a real bad guy.
Yeah.
And they're totally right. And I get it. But like just knowing that isn't enough to make the adjustment, because I haven't done that fight, or I should say I've only done that fight, when I was very, very young, doing in a different context, something.
Quick question. I know you've been doing threat intelligence and stuff like that. What do you find is the most challenging thing? Or what are you doing to accomplish those hard things? What are you learning? How are you tackling that?
So I definitely have an opinion on what I think my most challenging things are. I definitely feel blessed and understand that my most challenging things at my current organization are not the same things that most organizations feel challenged with. One of the things, there are many things about my current organization. I work at Stripe. I can say that publicly. One of the things that I have that works for me there are a number of things. First of all, is we're a financial institution. And we're a financial institution with leadership that very much cares about privacy and also is small enough, we're still private, still privately funded, that has to hustle, and their need to hustle makes them depend upon the scale of technology. what this translates to is we have very good telemetry, very, very, very good telemetry in our environment in a way that I have constantly heard my entire career other people have problems, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
constant. I mean, you have done this more than me.
Yeah.
You tell me, right? The
Yeah.
first thing you hear on every DFIR gig is, "Oh, we don't have logs for that.
Yep.
Oh, we turn that box off. Oh, we don't have."
Visibility.
Yeah,
Visibility.
that's not a thing at Stripe.
Yeah.
Like we have like if you don't have logs on this one little particular thing
Can
on this one instance going back like 5 years, people are like, "What broke?" Just because of
Quick
the
question: How
financial
long? How
requirement.
long do you guys keep your logs? Because it
It
gets
depends on the log.
expensive. It gets expensive. You know what I
It
mean?
is. It is, and that brings me to the second key element of one of the ways that like I have a luxury of being at an environment that affords me some things, and that is that um, I tell you right now, without getting into the stuff I can't say on the live stream, our biggest bills are Amazon and our
Yeah.
database,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Of
that's
course. Of
entirely
course. Of
because of
course.
logs.
Yeah.
Like
Logs.
logs and process capability because of our machine learning endpoint are by far our largest expenses. I'm talking multiple eight-figure bills, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the leadership doesn't blink an eye because they understand the value that those things give in multiple rings of the business, and they actually do that. I mean, obviously that those things are business contextually sensitive, and so that's just a luxury that I have, that anytime that we do need to build telemetry, we don't actually have to build telemetry, we just have to glue existing telemetry to something else that is doing threat assessment autonomously, and that is a major leg up from most organizations, which is great. The other thing I have going for me is is basically all fam all the way down.
Yeah.
Um, literally, my boss is ex Air Force, who's a guy who knows an old cadre group at Microsoft, who you also know. Who
Yes, sir.
back when MSRC was still a thing and there
Mm-hmm.
was a targeted threat intelligence team.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy was working with them. Before that, he was proper TLA government, and has a military intelligence history. And then his boss is John, who was just named our CIO,
Yeah.
or sorry, our CSO, CISO. And John was the guy under the pagoda, like DEFCON 10, like founding School of Root, running CTF.
Mm-hmm.
And above him, it goes to either Mudge, yes, that Mudge, or
Yeah.
Neil Provost, and like they've all been boys forever. So like at my level, like I just get an idea and I go, yeah, go do that, right? Because
Go.
it's all fam all the way up. Like I don't have
Yeah.
to deal with.
It's all good. It's love over there. Um. Yeah. There's always interesting problems that we all face, right? And one of the things for me, I don't do threat intelligence no more, but I'm still my mind is always acting like it, right? Reports come out, some new APT reports come out, and I'm like, I gotta read it. I gotta read it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm still on that threat intel mindset where I'm reading stuff and I'm learning new techniques and stuff like that. Where I just read either Kaspersky or CrowdStrike or something like that, and there's a lot of cool threat intelligence things that I could pick up off of. Is constantly learning and gathering these new skills. So, and I know
Yeah,
you're in
there's
that mode too.
it is. I'm learning. There's definitely kind of a secret club of high end blue teamers because good threat intel is just organically very difficult to absorb. I mean, you have to. It's like it's like even it's like it's just intelligence in general, even at a national level. Like it's really hard to catch a bad guy in the act, know that they're a bad guy, and then watch them do what they do, so that you can apply that at scale to other telemetry sources and find other bad guys. Because bad guys don't want to be caught. Like I'm learning. I'm learning that like that is actually a really hard problem, and that is why that the threat intel, commercial space is so terrible and still so very well funded because blue teams in general, and there's way more blue teams than there are red teams because of business need, are so much worse off in terms of intelligence sources that are credible. There's just so much, and that's not all because of capitalism and shysterism. It's just because it is an organically hard thing
Yeah.
to really know Like, how do you glue together enough confidence around attribution and technique and method and motive and who did what and whether or not they sold the shell to another group and then they did stuff and what implants are tied to what? Like, I'm learning, like, wow, if you don't have any other kind of cheat code into that,
Yeah.
that's hard. That is organically hard. And then add on top of that the fact that blue team scale is so much bigger than red team, right? Like our whole industry grows. I mean, I have a famous quote from Vis about like 2 years ago. He was like, "Hey man, you got to realize our whole industry grows 151%
Yeah.
statistically every year for the past like 10 years,
Dude, I was in
right?
Puerto Rico. I'll give you
And
a
most of
good
that is
thing.
blue team.
Yeah, I agree. And the same quote I'll give you on that is I was with Harvard Flake in Puerto Rico. We was at the first conference and I was speaking there.
Mm.
And we were talking at the bar and I was like, man, he's like every 4 years the whole industry kind of like just
It
changes. It
refreshes.
refreshes because
It
there's so many
refreshes.
people coming in and the old school people and the people that were there is like, dude, I'm kind of tired of going to like these conferences and this, that, and the other. So it does a refresh, and you don't see if you go to DEF CON or any conference that you go to, like a lot of I don't know as many people as when DC 949 was doing the CTF stuff, right? Now you go there and I barely see you, and this is why when I do see you, I'm like corner time. Let's have this conversation. Let's
Absolutely.
chop it up, and that to me is way more important. What do you have you been doing any bug bounty stuff?
Not really. I'm working on a thing that yeah, I'm working on the thing. um, Honestly, I have a lot going on, and that's just my style. I'm more of a work to get better at sure things rather than roll the dice on maybes. That's just my
Yeah,
MO.
yeah, yeah.
Also, dad life like takes away a lot of my research time. I ain't gonna
Yeah, man.
lie.
Yeah, man. I hear that. I hear that. Now it's a different level and a different level of care as well. So yeah, man. It is one of those things that for me I'm constantly improving, man. I'm trying to get to that next level. And like I said, and probably in the next week or two I'm gonna have him on. I wanted to start to get into bug bounties because I've never been in the game of like fucking with web applications, right? Never. I've
Yeah,
been low level RE doing shit like that. And I started to get into it and then I found when you're looking for a mentor, you want to get good into it. You got to understand, have the right mentor come into your life, and shit will change. And I found this mentor. His name is Santiago. He's from Argentina. I went to a Hacker One conference and we were chopping it up and we became good friends. Kid is 19 years old, crushing the game,
hey,
made over $1 million in bug bounties. And
hey, man,
my man is just crushing it. He is just crushing it,
that's
and much respect to him, Santiago. I know he's probably gonna watch, and probably over the next week or two, I'll bring him on, and I'm gonna try to do this every single day as long as I'm locked in shelter in place and do my thing. And it's crazy though where you have a gangster like that, and I don't give a shit about age. I am
yeah.
humble. I am a white belt when it comes to this game, and you moved over to the threat intel game in the last, let's say, year. I've been doing it for I can't even remember, like at least 6 7 years, right? And I'm sure you could show me stuff, and I think just having that mindset of growth
Absolutely.
and just continue on growing is really the most important thing.
Well, and that's always been the beauty of our industry is it's all about the actual results. You know, it's like putting people in space.
Yeah.
You know, like look, I don't care what you look like. Can you get this rocket off the ground? Because like shit has to work. You
Period.
know. No,
Period.
I'm totally with you. I remember, you know, God, man, it's going on like 6 7 years now. Man, that was a long time ago. Um, Back when FX was still going to cons,
Yeah.
I have this image burned in my mind of FX sitting in my hotel room at the time. And he looks over at me, and you know, this is FX, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a Vizzy. This is like the best reverse engineer I know. This is a guy who's been touting for years that he can read ARM assembly like English. And I've seen him do it, so I know it's true. And I'm talking to him about a reverse engineering question, and I'm thinking I'm a noob, and I'm halfway through it, and he's like, "Look, man, I don't know the answer to your question. I know the guy who does, but like, he's 14." And I'm like, "What? Okay." He's like, "Yeah, he works for me. I hired him maybe 6 months ago. He does all my reverse engineering now. He's way better than me." I'm like, "What?" Like, what do you mean? And man, I got to meet him like 2 months later, and man, I don't even remember his name, but he was this little German kid, and I mean, it was
It's
ridiculous,
nice.
totally ridiculous. And that bug bounty stuff, man, I tell you, like part of the reason why I haven't gotten into bug bounties is because like you remember, back when you and me, was getting into it, like. Web was kind of junk, right? Because it was like, well, why would you mess with the web when you can just pop the web server? Like that's just where you played. But now, man, he add 10 years to that tech. Like you can do a lot of damage with some JavaScript, bro. Like
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah,
it's a different game
yeah,
now. Like
it
I
is
look
a
at what
different game.
bypasses for WAPs used to look like even like a year ago, and I look at what they look now with this whole like full stack craze and the Node.js taking over. So
Oh
now you
yeah.
can do the server and the front end in JavaScript, and like, man, some of these bypasses is like,
Yeah.
Jesus, you're a human constraint solver. Like, don't nobody know the V8. Don't nobody know the job JVM like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and the whole thing, man, it's the whole game is constantly changing and it's constantly evolving. And what I've noticed is if you are happy with your win, you will wake up with a loss because the shit you know today, in 4 years from now, it's probably gonna switch up, and
Or
you
shorter.
have to. Five
Or
years
shorter.
ago, yeah, 5 years ago, or even longer than that, Docker wasn't as popular, right? Node wasn't as popular,
Oh yeah.
and all these things are constantly changing. Everything's in the cloud, right? So it's one of those things that I continue to say, man, you cannot rest. You always got to be constantly improving, being a white belt, and always learning. And that's the whole thing. That's why I still
Absolutely.
have these conversations with
Absolutely.
with
And that's the
people
thing is
like you.
you got to embrace it, right? Like it's not even a negative thing that it's always changing. Like that's why 100 years from now we're all still going to be employed cuz it's just that's man, there are BS concepts that you and I have had drinks over at con when we still
Ah,
had 5 minutes to rub together
yes,
that are
sir.
now entire fields of
And
study.
I
Like
will,
you
I
can
will,
get a degree.
yeah, I will quote Snow Child. He just wrote something in here, and he says everything you know now will be irrelevant in a
Oh
year.
man,
And it's it,
probably sooner than that.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. Shit is always constantly changing, and I feel like, dude, at the end of the day, if you're not grinding, like for me, I'ma keep it 100 with you. I'ma tell everyone right now, if you use IDA Pro, I don't know why you're using IDA Pro. I've used IDA Pro from 2006 until last year when Ghidra was released. There's no
man,
need to ever use IDA Pro ever again. Ever.
check this out. Check this out. We had that exact conversation when we was on the same vibe 2 years ago, right? And for the last 6 months, I've been on Cutter.
Mm.
You check this out.
No, I have not. Talk
Cutter,
about it.
Cutter is literally Radar 2 with a VM or with a UI, like fully fledged UI,
Mm-hmm.
right? But with Ghidra's disassembler under the hood
Mm.
without the requirement of external Java,
Mm. Okay.
multi-platform,
Okay. I'm gonna take a look
and
at it.
and native debugging support.
Whoa. Free 90. Is
Yeah,
it free 99?
it's free 99.
Okay, after the you see what I'm saying? This is why. This is exactly why we have these conversations because you just put me on because I've been locked in with Ghidra for now a year. It's been one
Yeah.
year, right?
No, we talked and I hadn't looked at Ghidra that hard and I went ham on it
Yeah.
because you in like 10 minutes were doing some I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that, like some silicon stuff. And I was just like, what is this magic?
And
This
I
boy, it's crazy.
yeah, I
And
would.
6 months, I just like went ham, and I got into the plugins, and I was messing with some Anger stuff, trying to do some porting, and I had a little bit of success. But I'll be honest, I was frustrated because I was like, this is all the awesome that I want with all the scripting and it's like poor man's hex rays with like the disassembler,
Yep.
which is great. But the UI, it's all the compartmentalization
Yeah.
of the UI is just not intuitive, and that's such a thing that our whole scene just rejects. They don't take into account the fact that you're a human. So like it doesn't matter what you put in the capability if the UI is too hard to use. There's orders of magnitude of capability that's just not going to translate to people. And then I tried Cutter, and from the first moment I was like, oh, this is
Okay.
like Ghidra with a UI and
Okay.
a debugger, so
Okay.
I don't have to
I'm
click
in.
5 things.
I'm
And
I'm I'm li- I'm locked into Cutter. I will definitely after this. Snowchild just added it into the chats, and he was talking about Binary Ninja. I would talk about that, but you have to pay for it. I'm not about that
There's
pay
a free
life.
version.
Oh,
No, there's a free version, and you definitely have to pay for it if you want the
yeah,
multi-core disassembly,
yeah,
which is basically why you do it. But I will say one win right now that Binja still has on me, because I used to pay for it. I paid for
yeah,
it for several
yeah.
years, and this is the first year I haven't renewed it because honestly, Cutter does everything that I need, so I don't need to go back to Binja. The one thing that Binja has done recently that still makes it stand out in my mind is they came out with the cloud
Mm,
disassembler. And for multiplayer, being able to just send your colleagues a link and have that be on
mm.
lock and
That's
be
pretty
able to
cool.
take apart an arbitrary binary blob for file carving, haven't seen anything yet that
Okay,
does it like that.
okay.
That's
Way
legit.
to drop. These are some nuggets. These are some nuggets that we're dropping now. But what I would say is, like, for me, when I was trying to spread, I was like spreading the gospel about Ghidra, right? And one of my friends was like, "Dude, you know what? I've been locked into IDA Pro for so long. It's a steep learning curve, right? And there's no question there is a steep learning curve, but STFU and learn it because
Yeah.
the price I did the price mapping between Ghidra and IDA Pro, and I'm not shitting on IDA Pro because it's the reason why my RE game is where it's at is because of IDA Pro, but paying 14 G's and
Yep.
paying free 99 for
Yep.
something, it just doesn't make sense. And I'm like, how are you gonna win when?
Well, and at some point, it's not about you.
Yeah,
Right? It's not about you. Even if you are, if you're Bloomberg and you just mad guap and you can afford to pay for whatever, it doesn't matter because your tool is not as good as you. Your tool is
yep,
as good as everybody that uses it. And once something goes free, there's more people using it than the people that's using the pay version.
yes sir,
Period. End of
yes
sentence.
sir, yes sir, and
And
I
so
agree.
much. I mean, like this blue team game, when it comes to flirt signatures and threat intelligence, it's about the community.
Yes
You
sir.
can't do it by yourself. You just don't have the visibility. You don't have the telemetry. It's not like red team. It's not about gluing together a kill chain. It's not secular like that. It's a different skill. It's still a skill, but it's different. And
All
yeah, I
right.
mean,
So right now I'm gonna share out my screen so I just put Cutter on here,
oh,
and
do it, man.
I'm sharing out my screen, and this is interesting, dude. This is really interesting.
It's an interesting gluing together of of capabilities because Radar 2 has been the it has been the assembly machine of choice for the hardware kids
Okay.
because of the architecture support. I mean, you think
So is
IDA
this like
supports
a
architecture.
hybrid of, like, it says powered by Radar 2 and
So Radar 2 built it. So
yeah.
Radar 2 is a CLI based disassembler
Uh-huh.
slash debugger, but their goal, it always been open source, been around for
Yeah,
years, but
yeah, yeah.
their mission has always been on multiple architecture support.
Okay,
So
yeah.
this damn thing works on, I mean, it
Yeah.
works on PIC and x86 and MIPS and MISP and whatever. It works on I mean, like hundreds of CPUs, right? Like like IDA beats everybody on CPU support except these bros, right?
Okay.
And it's been like that forever. And the downside has always been, yeah, but you're in a CLI.
Mhm.
And so, and because it doesn't commit to a given CPU,
How is
you
there a
don't have all
debugger?
the,
I'm looking at, it says multi-platform native remote
yeah, so it works
debugger.
with GDB and it works with x86 debug.
Ooh, okay.
what you
Decompiler,
need.
native
Like that's
integration with Ghidra's decompiler cutter releases. Okay.
yeah.
Linear disassembly view. That's pretty good. Use native and Python plugins. How is plugins? Writing plugins easy?
I wrote a plugin the year my son was born, so 2.5 years ago, almost three.
Create for automation, crypto
During
algorithms, and
DEF CON CTF for the Clemency, because that was what I did that year. That was the one year in like the past like 18 years I skipped DEF CON
does it
because
have
my son was
BinDiff?
born. Um, I don't know.
You see,
I think so.
I'm
I
gonna
honestly
check
don't
it
know.
out. You have to go and check it out because this is the
Yeah.
shit. This is why I'm like, huh. Remember, you see, when you talk, I fucking listen. That same conversation we had at that DEF CON, you was like, Go is the shit. I looked at Go. I was like, oh shit, Go is the shit. Go is the reason why. I'm like, okay, I could see why I need to move over, and you put me on, and this is why I love having these conversations, and this is why I want to provide value to the people on Twitter. I'm gonna post this up on YouTube, and we're in right now. The reason why I'm doing this, because everyone is in shelter in place, and now is the fucking time where you could get on your grind and
That's
really
right.
pump out stuff as well as get your skills where it needs to be. And for me, I would say, dude, like go fucking get it.
Oh man, if you're over the age of 20, I would say this if you're young enough to be healthy and you're at home,
Wait, Snowchild
this
just said, we
yeah.
were talking about Cutter RE. He typed in, and we're all going to be unemployed soon, so free is good.
Oh yeah. No, that's absolutely well,
We'll we'll
I know what he
see,
means
but
by that.
I know what you mean. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's at the end of the day, I would say this, man. Now is the time to get on your grind, man.
Yeah. It's a gift. It really is a gift. I mean, the people don't realize like, the old school mechanism of doing this used to be you got good at it when you were a kid because you didn't have the normal childhood things. Either you
Yeah.
had a messed up childhood or you had a good childhood, but you were socially awkward, so you didn't have friends. And that meant you had to do other stuff. And some kids play games, and some kids play music, and some kids hack shit. And those of us that hack shit, we built this industry. I'm gonna just be straight with it. Like Snow will tell you, anybody from that era just before us, right? We're like the in between generation, but
Yeah.
like that true old school, they'll tell you they built it, right? And
Yeah.
well, how'd you do that? Well, you have to have no friends for 12 years and do nothing but serve
Get on
criminal.
the
That's how.
fucking grind. Don't
You
talk
know?
to anyone. Head down.
And now that and as I get older and as I try to raise my boy and as I look at things macroscopically and I try to derive wisdom from my experience, I realized that really the gift of that was time. I didn't have to pay rent. I had folks who were cool enough to not be a problem, and I had just enough access to up my game and just enough lack of capital access to be hungry, right? And willing to color outside the lines a little bit, for lack of more explanation, right? And the older I get, the more I realize what a gift that was, because that is a beautiful nexus of resource and hunger-driven ambition and time.
Yeah.
Time is the
Yeah.
golden word.
Yes, sir.
And once you move out, once you're paying rent, once it's about that hustle, you do not have that time. Even as a professional pen tester, like you don't get time to write Ode. You on to the next gig. It's like being a teacher. You don't get people free days to develop lesson plans. Nobody wants to pay for that. It's a hustle. Man, the excuse of being at home and not having not having the distraction of living life and you just have to be in your enclave. Oh my God, use that. That is the most beautiful gift if you use it right.
Yo,
If you use it right,
it's-
go read everything. Go live in VS Code and keep your head down and have podcasts on either side and turn the screens off and just listen to them and just get good. And I guarantee you will thank me later.
There's no substitution for putting in the hard work. Period. Like a lot of people like pussyfoot around of grinding. Like, dude, I would say read the book of like You Can't Hurt Me from like David Goggins, like Embrace the Suck. And I'm gonna tell you right now, get fucking good. Now now I was gonna say with Snowchild, every time you type something, I'm just gonna read it. So, because at the end of the day, we both love you, right? And he and Virus can't see the chat, but I can. So
Oh no,
Snow.
I see it. I got it in the other screen
Oh,
over
okay,
here.
okay. So you see it. Now he says, now imagine a world with
Yeah,
universal
with
basic.
universal basic income.
It's called Hack the Planet.
Oh.
So I want to, we're gonna wrap it up soon, and this is gonna be posted up. Retweet it, Snow Child. No, dude. Actually, this week I'm gonna hit you up. You got to come on.
Oh, do it.
The stories. The
Oh man.
stories.
Oh man.
Would be
baptized
epic.
in milk himself.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let him. He's gonna be on. I'm not even gonna ask him anything. I'll be like, go ahead, start from the beginning. So at the end of the day, that's what I'm doing. I know people are hitting that Netflix and all that, but I figured I want to do this because I want to pass some of the time. I think we're gonna be locked down and shelter in place for at least a month. I think that's my personal opinion, but that's just me. So rule
Man,
one,
I'm gonna be
keep
honest.
your
I'm gonna
mouth
tell you right. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna tell you right now. The best gift is that the DEF CON CFP is open right now.
Do you think that's happening? I
and
was thinking about getting Dark Tangent to get on here.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
Talk about DEF CON. Is it
I'm
gonna
gonna
be
tell you right now.
canceled?
DEF CON might get canceled. That's real. You know what? But it's okay because being on the review board, I get to read all the talk submissions.
Mm-hmm.
And I am in it right now because it's just the best Twitter feed. I'm just like, oh yeah, what's that talk? Oh yeah, what you want to talk about? Oh yeah, that's legit.
Yes, sir.
Oh
okay.
man.
Okay, that's what it's about, man. I'm hoping that they're not good. Excuse me, they're not going to cancel it, but we'll see. We'll see how all this plays out. But I would say one thing. Grind the fuck out, and that's kind of why I'm doing this. Like, hey, I'm gonna give you some maybe motivation. It's all about one over the other, and I see Snow once a year at DEF CON, and when I do, he's busy or I'm busy, and look, he's interacting with us. That's why I want you to come on and talk about nothing, just straight dribble about nothing, and that'll be cool. Because we don't get to talk. We don't have that time where we go out to grab something to eat or just hang out. So this would be a cool thing, especially everyone's locked in. That's what I'm reaching out to a lot of people on Twitter, and I'm just gonna keep on having people either get on or I'll do it myself, but expect every day for me to go and get on here until we are free to get out and shelter in place is no longer
I definitely encourage that. I plus all of that, man. I tell you, like, all the like, so the Wednesday drink up that used to be, that's still a thing in Los Angeles, but the Los Angeles scene has changed hands a few times, much very similar to the New York scene, right? Yeah. And people move and people establish new communities, and so the shelter, the suggested shelter in place happened in Los Angeles. We're not at full shelter in place yet, but everybody with a brain is basically sheltering in place. Yeah. So Elliot decided to take it remote, and so this last week he had a remote hacker drink up. And it was great because it being remote meant that everybody that had moved out or everybody that wasn't in LA anymore could suddenly join. And it was massive and it was amazing. And it started with people show and telling old tech and ended into just stories. And then people started dropping knowledge because they were messing with it. And we ended up getting like an old copy of MechWarrior 2 running on Windows 10 because of a stupid debate that happened in like 10 minutes. Like it was the hacker jazz that happened at every party of old 2600, old Hope, old DEF CON, that old, like when it was sub 1,000 people, just folks who have no reason to be here except to figure out how to do the wicked.
Yes,
and
sir.
it was a special kind of magic, and I know that we're not special. Like anybody listening to this can do that too. Go reach out, go set up a thing, go sit on Discord while you're working, and leave it on mute. And then when somebody has something to say something. And it's just water seeks its own level, man. And when you have real heads, use that.
I completely agree with what you're saying. At the end of the day, just do. Stop. Like I think over the last 4 years, I stopped worrying about what people like thought. I always say, even this, right? Even if there's one person on, okay, thank you for your attention. Maybe in the future when someone sees this, they can get one thing out of it, because I just did. I didn't know about Cutter. Now I do. Right? And
Word.
this is what I'm saying, like 1 over everything else, 1 over 0. And as long as you keep on moving forward, you keep on progressing, you keep on learning, and you are doing, that's where you win. Just fucking do.
Absolutely.
And with
Absolutely.
that, brother, we're 55 minutes in, and it is always
Word.
always
I'm gonna drop my little 2 minutes of shout outs. I'm gonna say, speaking of things to do while you shut in, there's a podcast that my boy AWGH is dropping called Symbol Crash. It's got interviews of Bill Pollock on there. It's got interviews from CCC. There's more interviews coming soon, hopefully with a few of the East Coast cats, possibly Mubix, possibly the Potters. It's really just origin stories and some technical know-how. Really smart dudes. Absolutely recommend everybody check that out. And yeah, I mean, you and me can rap about technical stuff.
Yo,
but...
look. All I'm saying is, drop all name dropping. DC 949 is never gonna die.
Nah, man.
Shout out
949 is chilling.
It's always Adam, my man. I haven't seen him for a minute. He's still the hood Jesus, as I call him.
Oh, that dude is running a business unit, doing all kinds of crazy. I can't even get into it in public. With that
don't even. But it is one of those things. What I want to know is, when are you gonna go and take your account off of lock so everyone can see it? Because I want to retweet. Like, some of the shit that you drop on your Twitter is not only hilarious, but very informative. And for me, I want to like retweet shit, and it only goes to like half of the people that I know.
I'm still learning. That's some level up I need to do. I'm still learning how to be public. Like, our generation was not big on public. We was that private, and I haven't learned how to do that yet. That's coming. I don't know what's. Maybe it'll be another account. Maybe I'll just finally hit the public button. I don't know. Something will happen.
Maybe. But like I said, bro, thank you for jumping on. I greatly appreciate it. And like I said, tomorrow will be day 9. I believe today's day 8. Tomorrow's day 9. And I'm going to keep on doing this until shelter is not in place. Then I probably will do this once a week. But until then, I'm going to holla at y'all tomorrow. Same time, probably earlier.
Absolutely.
Bo. All right, we're done. All right.
Man, thanks for having me, man. That was tight. It's good to talk to you.